afternoon, and welcome to Pakistan Today from our Islamabad studio. I'm Chris Taylor. Uncertainty continues surrounding ongoing negotiations between the United States and Iran, as senior American officials caution that no final agreement has yet been reached. U.S. President Donald Trump says any potential deal with Iran is not even fully negotiated yet, adding that nobody has seen it or knows what it is. Trump defended the ongoing talks, saying he would only support what he described as a good and proper agreement. He stressed that major issues remain under discussion behind closed doors and confirmed that U.S. blockade measures against Iran will remain in place until a final agreement is formally signed and certified. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says a nuclear agreement with Iran cannot be finalized in 72 hours on the back of a napkin, describing the negotiations as highly technical and complex. Speaking to the New York Times, Rubio said support for the diplomatic framework is growing across the region, with 7 to 8 countries reportedly backing the approach. His remarks came after reports that President Trump advised negotiators not to rush toward a final settlement. Political divisions are also deepening in Washington over the proposed framework. Republicans have largely defended the talks, while Democrats continue to criticize the process. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen described the proposal as a return to the pre-war status quo with Iran, calling it a serious blunder. Republican Congressman Mike Lawler defended the administration's diplomatic efforts, while Senator Cory Booker accused the White House of weakening America's negotiating position. For more on the reaction from Washington and diplomatic developments surrounding the talks, we go to our correspondent Eric Westwood in New York City.
Thank you, Chris. Political debate here in the United States is intensifying as negotiations with Iran continue behind closed doors. Supporters of the talks argue diplomacy remains the only realistic path to avoid further regional instability, while critics warn the proposed framework may fail to address long-term security concerns. Officials close to the negotiations say discussions remain highly sensitive, with technical and verification issues still unresolved. Despite the criticism, the White House appears determined to continue pursuing a negotiated outcome while maintaining economic pressure on Tehran.
Thank you. Eric Westwood reporting from New York City. In another major diplomatic development, Prime Minister Shehbaz has praised U.S. President Donald Trump for what he called extraordinary efforts to pursue peace following a high-level phone call involving Chief of Defense Forces Field Marshal Asim Munir and leaders from several regional countries. The Prime Minister said Pakistan hopes to host another round of U.S.-Iran negotiations very soon as international diplomatic efforts continue to gain momentum. President Trump, meanwhile, urged negotiators to take their time, saying there can be no mistakes in any final agreement. Prime Minister Shehbaz has also arrived in Beijing for key meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang aimed at strengthening bilateral ties and expanding cooperation under CPEC Phase 2. Earlier in Hangzhou, the premier addressed the Pakistan-China Business-to-Business Investment Conference, where agreements and memorandums of understanding worth more than $7 billion were signed in energy, solar technology, infrastructure, and pharmaceutical sectors. The visit also included meetings with leading Chinese firms, including CATL and StarCharge, as Pakistan seeks to attract greater industrial and investment partnerships with China. Joining us now from Islamabad with more on Pakistan's diplomatic outreach and economic cooperation agenda is our correspondent Sarah William.
Chris, the government is presenting this visit as a major step forward in strengthening long-term economic cooperation between Pakistan and China. Officials say CPEC Phase 2 will focus more heavily on industrial growth, technology transfer, and sustainable energy development. The signing of agreements worth over $7 billion is being viewed as a significant boost for investor confidence at a time when Pakistan is seeking economic stability and foreign investment. Diplomatic sources also indicate that regional connectivity and strategic cooperation remain central themes in the meetings taking place in Beijing.
Many thanks to Sarah William reporting from Islamabad. Pakistan and 7 other Muslim-majority countries have strongly condemned Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir over the treatment of activists detained from a Gaza-bound flotilla. In a joint statement, the foreign ministers of Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, Indonesia, Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates described Ben-Gvir's actions as appalling, degrading, and unacceptable. The ministers accused the Israeli official of publicly humiliating detainees and violating international humanitarian and human rights laws. The statement also condemned what it described as extremist acts of incitement and violence against Palestinians, warning that such actions undermine international efforts toward a just and lasting two-state solution. And finally, China has successfully launched its Shenzhou 23 mission, marking another major milestone in Beijing's ambition to land astronauts on the moon before 2030. The mission includes astronaut Li Jiaying, who has become the first person from Hong Kong to travel into space, alongside astronauts Zhu Yangzhu and Zhang Jiyuan. A major objective of the mission is to test a full-year stay aboard China's Tiangong space station in order to study the long-term effects of microgravity. Chinese officials say the research will support future lunar exploration and possible Mars missions in the coming decades. That's all for now. You're watching Pakistan Today. I'm Chris Taylor.